A brain-computer interface doesn't read your thoughts. It reads electricity, and that difference matters a lot. Your brain runs on electrical signals. About 86 billion neurons are constantly firing tiny pulses at each other, and those pulses create patterns we can measure from outside your skull. The most common way to pick up those signals is with an EEG, cap, a net of electrodes placed on your scalp. Each electrode is essentially a very sensitive microphone, but for electricity instead of sound. What the electrodes actually detect is the combined electrical activity of millions of neurons firing underneath. It's like standing outside a stadium and trying to figure out what one person is saying by listening to the whole crowd at once. Individual neurons produce what researchers call action potentials, sharp little voltage spikes that last about a millisecond. To record those cleanly, you need electrodes placed much closer to the neurons themselves. That's what implanted electrode arrays do. Devices like the Utah array sit directly on or inside brain tissue, close enough to pick up signals from individual neurons or small clusters of them. Different brain regions handle different jobs. The motor cortex, near the top of your head, is active when you plan or make a movement. BCIs, targeting movement, like helping paralyzed patients control a cursor, focus on signals from exactly that region. So when a person imagines moving their hand, neurons in the motor cortex fire in a particular pattern. The BCI learns to recognize that pattern and translates it into a command. Move cursor left, close robotic hand, that kind of thing. Here's the important limit, though. The system isn't reading the thought of move my hand. It's recognizing a statistical pattern in electrical noise that tends to show up when someone has that intention. That's a much narrower thing. Reading something like language or complex ideas is far harder. Words, memories, and emotions don't live in one tidy spot in the brain. They're distributed across huge networks, and we don't yet have a reliable map for most of them. There's also a hardware problem. Implanted electrodes work well at first, but brain tissue treats them as foreign objects and slowly forms scar tissue around them. Signal quality tends to degrade over months or years. Non-invasive EEG avoids that problem, but the skull and tissue between the electrodes and the neurons blur the signal enormously. You gain safety and lose detail. Researchers are working on middle ground approaches, thinner, more flexible implants that cause less scarring, and better software that can extract more meaning from noisier signals. Progress is real, but it's incremental. The gap between detecting a motor intention and reading a sentence someone is thinking is enormous. Current BCIs are genuinely useful for specific medical applications and genuinely limited for almost everything else. If you want to go deeper, look up how researchers are trying to decode speech from neural signals. The results are interesting, and the limitations are even more interesting.